Hey, guess what? I'm autistic. Where'd everyone go? Hi, I'm Phil and I'm a late diagnosed autistic older adult. In this video, I want to dive into how to chat with someone who has told you they are autistic. What's changed? What's the same? And do you need to do anything differently? Also, a big thanks to Mick for suggesting this topic. If you're interested in seeing more videos about my experience of being autistic and issues important to autistic adults, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. This lets me know I'm not just talking to an empty room and helps get the message out to a wider audience by letting the YouTube algorithm know that people are interested in this topic. Before we begin, an important point to note. Autism is a spectrum of challenges and abilities. As such, no two autistic people will have the same experience or the same traits. So let's dive into talking with an autistic person. Okay, so you've been minding your own business when you see a social media post or get an email from a friend or family member making the big announcement, I'm autistic. After thinking about it for a bit, you come to the realisation that at some point you're going to need to talk to this person, and maybe you're not sure how this revelation will affect how you relate to them, or whether you should mention it or just ignore the whole topic and pretend it never happened. Well, to be honest, I'm sure you're not alone. Right now, probably everyone who has just received the same message is probably thinking exactly the same thing. In fact, this dilemma is not an uncommon one in life. We've all been in this kind of situation from time to time and not really known how to respond. The thoughts that might flow could be along the lines of, oh great, we had a good friendship, now everything's changed. Or, I don't want to be intrusive, so I just won't mention it at all. If you're a Fawlty Towers fan, you might hear the voice of John Cleese in your head saying, don't mention the war. I mentioned it once, but I think I got away with it. Or, I won't contact the person until later on when all this autism thing has blown over and we can talk like nothing ever happened. Or maybe your first thought is, what? He's not autistic. He's nothing like that doctor guy on TV. Or maybe you're thinking something like, crap, that joke I made the other day probably made him think I was making fun of him. Or maybe you're the parent of the autistic person and your first thought is, oh, it's all my fault. Or maybe you're thinking, oh, that poor person. What a terrible tragedy for them to live with this terrible thing. Okay, maybe all a bit overdramatic, but you get the idea. The first thing to note here is that everybody will have some form of initial response to any unexpected news. The key thing is not what that response is. The truth is, we can't control the first thing that pops into our mind. What we can control is how we then process that and what response we might then form. I know from my experience when I've received news from people either about significant adverse health diagnoses or other life-changing events, my response has always been on the ghosting end of the spectrum, which thinking back I can appreciate was not a great response. Now, in saying this, I'm not necessarily saying that the best response is to jump straight on the phone or jump in the car and go and see the person, although both those responses may be fine. Everyone is entitled to respond differently based on their relationship and also their own situation. For me, when I'm working out how to respond in situations like this, I often find that an initial short message back to the person in the same mode as the initial announcement was made can be appropriate, i.e. return email, etc. This then lets the person know you have seen their announcement and gets any perceived awkwardness out of the way of future conversations. Okay, generalities aside, how does all this relate to the autistic announcement? The first thing you need to know is the autistic person probably has been working through this for some time before either coming to the point of identifying as autistic or even obtaining a formal diagnosis. This means that more than likely this is not a new understanding for the autistic person, but more an emerging from the chrysalis moment, where we might feel it's time to let the world know. Also, it is very likely that this self-discovery is a positive for the autistic person, in that it can explain a lifetime of things not working out as hoped, or relationships that broke unexpectedly. So this understanding, while it does not compensate for what has been lost, at least puts it into perspective. So to this point, it is highly unlikely to be a tragedy for the person, more likely a relief, and a point of self-acceptance, or at least the possibility of self-acceptance. One thing to understand about autistic people is we focus intently on certain things in life. The term special interest is one that is often used by autistic people to identify these things we focus on. And when I say focus, I don't mean passing interest. I mean laser focus to the point of exclusion of pretty much all else. When someone is working through their own journey leading to an autism identification, the chances are we have turned this into our special interest. The other thing you need to know about autistic people is we love to talk about our special interests. Put these two things together and the chances are we will happily talk about our autism. So don't be shy in bringing up the topic, especially if we reached out to you to tell you about our diagnosis or identification. That means you are important to us. Okay, so you've been told about your friend's autism identification and you're reaching for a verbal response. Unfortunately, the three most common responses can also be the most damaging. Let me explain. Response number 1. You're not autistic. More likely than not, this response is an instinctive way of trying to minimise what might be perceived as being a bad or negative thing, i.e. the autism. The reality is this is a form of gaslighting and diminishes the autistic person's life experience. Response number 2. Everybody is a little bit autistic, or we're all on the spectrum somewhere. Okay, so the motivation for this response is that you might be trying to get alongside the autistic person. It's basically like saying, they're there, it's not so bad, we're all a bit damaged. Like response number 1, this also diminishes the autistic person's life experience and the individual struggles and challenges that the autistic person has faced. But also the stark truth is we are not all a bit autistic. Yes, many people have one or some traits in common with autism. For example, many people might be introverted and equate this with autism. Autism has many more aspects than being a bit shy. If you'd like to find out more about what autism is, please check out my 2-part video explaining autism. I'll leave a link in the video description. Response number 3. You must be very high functioning. This one, like the others, is also invalidating, as it implies that the autistic person does not have any significant struggles, and maybe we're just looking for a bit of attention. The fact is, functioning labels are no longer used to describe autism. As to say someone is high functioning is to deny their daily struggles, and also make some sort of class judgment between the high functioning and the low functioning autistic people. To imply someone is low functioning can also deny them opportunities, as their potential is given a very limited status. Now, while all these responses are not great to hear as an autistic person, if you have made a response similar to these, don't despair. Autists do understand that people are trying their best with communication, so we'll cut you a bit of slack here at the outset. But we do hope you get a bit more understanding and change your language as you learn a bit more. Watching videos like this is a great start, so well done you. Interestingly, when I started to tell people about my autism diagnosis, a few people made comments like, that makes sense, or we could have told you that, or that's why you've always dismantled your hamburger at Macca's. On the surface, these types of comments might appear insensitive, but the reality is quite the opposite. The message conveyed in these types of responses is, we can see you're a bit different and this explains why. I found this validating, as the process of coming to the understanding of being autistic can have the outcome of imposter syndrome, where we feel like fakes for thinking this about ourselves. So we kind of expect denial from others when we start to tell our story. To then have people agree that you are actually a bit different and autism makes sense can be an overwhelming feeling of relief. The next thing to know about an autistic person is that we might have some difficulty in face-to-face conversation. The most stereotypical trait of autistic people in face-to-face conversation is lack of eye contact. This is 50% truth and 50% myth. Many autistic people will struggle with making eye contact in conversations, but not all. Likewise, some autistic people will make over-the-top eye contact. The main points to note are, Don't try and force the autistic person to make eye contact. Just because an autistic person is not making eye contact does not mean they are not listening. In fact, forcing eye contact can be extremely distracting for an autistic person. So by avoiding eye contact, we might be making a concerted effort to listen to you. An autistic person may be able to make flawless eye contact, but this does not mean that it is done without effort. When having general conversation with an autistic person, be aware also that we may not always pick up on non-verbal cues such as body language or tone of voice. We may also miss some of the subtleties of conversation, like implied meanings or sarcasm. On sarcasm in particular, it is a myth that autistic people don't understand sarcasm. This is born out of the fact that autists are strongly literal thinkers, so we tend to always take the literal meaning of something first. For me, this means I have to process that and then come to an understanding that the comment might have been made sarcastically. I usually get there in the end, but it just might take me a bit longer. When it comes to being sarcastic, however, many autistic people may be right in there with the best of them, so don't assume we can't understand it full stop. Autistic people might also not respond how you might expect to conversations that have an emotional base. For example, in a conversation with an autistic person where you might talk about something bad that has happened, the autistic person may not necessarily respond with the expected sympathetic or emotional response. This is due to a trait called alexithymia, where we might have difficulty in putting emotions into words or even recognising our own emotions. This may come out as a flat or muted response, maybe with little or no facial expression. This does not mean we don't care, and it may be we are feeling that emotion internally to a high degree, even if it doesn't show. Another factor that can really affect whether autistic people are able to communicate can be as simple as the environment in which we are in at the time. A key aspect of autism is our sensory sensitivity. This means we can be overwhelmed in situations where any of the senses are being overstimulated. For example, in a public setting, there might be lots of people talking, other environmental noises, bright lights, flashing lights, or even bright sunlight, smells, including food smells, people brushing past us if the space is crowded or busy. Maybe the temperature is either hot or cold. This list can go on, and I must stress what overstimulates one autist may be absolutely fine for another. In fact, as a non-autistic person, you might find the above sensory environment invigorating. But for an autistic person, that overstimulation can lead to a significant reduction in our ability to communicate and may even lead to things like meltdowns or shutdowns. Some telltale signs that the autistic person you are with is overwhelmed in such a situation might be a reduction in their usual amount of eye contact. They might appear distracted. You might notice that they start to display repetitive movements such as leg bouncing, finger tapping or wiggling, or hair twirling. Or bigger body movements like swaying or shifting weight constantly. In these situations, it might be good to offer to move the conversation to somewhere away from the overstimulation causing the apparent overwhelm. But as a caveat, it's always best to ask the autistic person if they would like to move rather than just assume. In planning social outings or get-togethers with your autistic friend, it may be good to consider what the external environment might be like and ask the autistic person if that will be okay for them. It might also be that the autistic person is wanting a highly stimulatory environment. There are no hard and fast rules that will work for every autist, so just ask. In trying to manage communication, particularly in social environments where there might be multiple people and possibly sensory overwhelm, the autistic person can be working very hard to stay engaged and may sometimes, in an attempt to try and fit in, misjudge comments or make inappropriate jokes or remarks. I found myself in these situations many times in my adult life where I've said something or made a joke possibly at someone's expense because that is what I've observed other people do. But instead of it being funny, it has come across as distasteful or even mean. This is an attempt at masking our communication struggles. And when it fails like this, it is extremely distressing and embarrassing. I find myself replaying these moments in my head, possibly even from decades ago, and I'm just mortified by them today as I was back then. Making jokes at someone's expense seems to be done frequently in neurotypical conversation, but as an autistic person, I cannot judge that correctly without the result just being horrible. I have had to come up with the strict personal rule of never making jokes or other comments at someone else's expense to avoid these misjudgments. Actually, maybe this is something that could serve neurotypicals also. Just saying. In summary, the autistic person is the same today as they were when you saw them before their diagnosis/identification. Just communicate today as you would then. Don't be scared to ask us about our autism. Chances are we will be happy to chat about it. By taking the initiative and learning about autism, you will show that you are a friend who cares, and that will no doubt strengthen the friendship. For many autistic people, making new friends can be difficult. So if you are someone with an autistic friend, the chances are they value that friendship highly. You are important to us. Okay, so that's it for now. If you want to find out more about what autism is, what it isn't, and why I decided to get an official autism diagnosis, please feel free to check out my 2-part video of my introduction to autism. I'll leave a link to that in the video description. And remember, if you want to see more videos on my experiences with autism, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. Feel free to say hi in the comments section or make suggestions about topics for future videos. I would love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. See you next time.